And some of the things that you and I love as far as film nerds, like our favorite things, miniatures, matte paintings, woo!
Yeah.
Galore.
It's because, like we had said earlier on, there is only one scene that takes place that's outside that is actually at a location. Everything else is on these stages. You're in a story.
Yeah. And so you're looking, everything has a dreamy, like fantastical element to it. There are so much where like
but it doesn't look
trees
bad when you
having vaginas and like dicks. I was like, what?
Yeah. Hey Gretchen, welcome back.
Thanks.
I am so excited to talk about this film. Do you want to introduce this one?
Well, I mean, I kept getting the name wrong, but now that I've kind of dialed that in, it's the Company of Wolves. It's the Neil Jordan 1984 film. It's a, sexual awakening film.
There's a lot of stuff. This is a reimagining of Little Red Riding Hood with
I think that's
a bunch
like
of
really
other films.
That is like a very light touch of that. I would barely say that it even has Riding Hood is barely the story almost.
It's not really the story. It's kind of there. It's as if, let's say we take Little Red Riding Hood and have Little Red Riding Hood be sort of a character that we follow through other stories of wolves that represent various other character archetypes.
Yes.
And then have Little Red Riding Hood have a sexual awakening. And then all of that is actually a fever dream, sexual awakening.
For the wraparound story.
For the other story that's happening in more modern day 1984 English countryside.
So I think we should preface this with like, this came out 2 years before Labyrinth.
It did.
And I feel like Labyrinth probably took some notes because we would have production would have been what, 83, late 82, early 83. I don't really know how long it took films to be made back then.
Yeah.
But this is, I mean, quite literally a fever dream.
Yeah.
Because our character, Rosalind, is asleep in her bed, having a nightmare, but her room is a treasure trove of her childhood. And it has all these things that get brought into the story and into the dream of this fantasy that she falls into after her older sister is trying to get her to come down for dinner.
Yeah. So exactly. We start out in our present day with a family, and they arrived at a home someplace out there that is in 1983 English countryside. And we have a girl, Rosaline, who is asleep in her bed having a fever dream, and her sister's trying to wake us up. And that's where we kind of like, we jump off with all that.
But to start that off, like there was a few notes that I had about how they were dressed. Like her older sister is dressed in this manner that's very like, well, Picnic at Hanging Rock meets 1980s like video girl. Yeah. Because she has like one of those like white, like bloomy dresses, but she's also wearing like red lace stockings and red shoes, which, I mean, if we're going to start grasping at symbolism early on, like the red shoes represent, you know, in that fairy tale. So I think what we're trying to introduce is like, this is a fairy tale. Even in the modern setting that we are starting off in, this is a fairy tale. And
along with Labyrinth, so you reference Labyrinth in there and how we start kind of our storytelling and the archetype of the setting in the room and all of this. I actually thought of Legend while we were watching this, and especially as we start to get to talking about all of the sets.
Oh, absolutely.
And how everything is kind of laid out in this world. So it's kind of an amazing film.
It kind of, and it just doesn't get enough love. I feel like it's just now. I started seeing it on streaming services, and like I think Shudder was offering it. My first foray into this film is, I don't know if you're familiar with this era of like MTV, but so back in the day, they had these holiday or like Halloween sequences that they would set up. It's hard for me to describe it because it's kind of lost media at this point. But the idea was that they would do like it would present a bunch of films but in shorts. We'd see like small scenes from each film, and there would be like an overarching narration. I think this one was done by Robert Englund. I'm almost positive, or somebody in that vein of horror filmmaking at the time, or being in horror cinema. But it was like one of those like. And in the company of wolves, there was the dream sequence that reflects back the horrors of when you go to dinner. And it's like, but you see, like there were segments of films, and these were done like during like Halloween, and sometimes they would have like a music video interrupting the like different films, or they would make a music video from the films. Do you remember these? A
little bit. I didn't get to see much. I really didn't get to watch much MTV until I went to college, which was that was in late 1989, early 1990. So there was a pretty significant chunk of MTV that I missed.
Yeah,
that I didn't get to participate in
that era. Like I cannot recall what those were called. But like Disney did one too. They called it like the Halloween Treat, and it showed like segments of like Fantasia and like their small little shorts that were like the Huey, Dewey, and Louie going trick or treating and things like that. But it had like a pumpkin that was narrating it at the very beginning, like a puppet pumpkin. Just weird stuff like that. Or like the Legend of Sleepy Hollow was also intermixed in that one, than the Disney's Halloween Treat. But MTV did one like this. And I remember there was one that they did for, I think this was actually wrapped up somehow with like, there was like talking about horror movies and dreams. And because it was the Dream Child or the Dream Master had just come out. So it's like 1989.
Okay.
So this was like a good timing for me as a preteen, kind of coming into like being like, wow, I really love horror movies. I mean, I knew I loved them as a kid because I said in another episode where I watched horror movies from behind my parents' couch while they were watching them. But like literally this is like one of those things when it was acceptable, because my father didn't really care about me watching like scary movies. He wasn't one of those like fear-mongering kind of parents. He was not afraid of like, he was like, horror movies are horror movies. I think the only thing that ever bothered him is like if there was like satanic elements, then he was like, I don't super love that being in your life, like you watching that kind of stuff. Like I wasn't allowed to watch Thundercats for some reason because of like he thought that like that Mumra was like summoning like doing a satanic thing. It was his interpretation.
Wow.
This is also the same person.
That's not where I thought you were going when you brought that up. I was like, yeah, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch was the film that my father wouldn't let me watch. And it was like, nope.
Thundercats. He didn't let me he wouldn't let me watch The Exorcist. He was like, that's a little too intense. But my mom actually stood in line in nursing school to go see The Exorcist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She like went for a bunch of friends and like bought tickets, and they stood in line to go see it. But yeah. That aside, that was how I first got wind of this film, and I could not for the life of me figure out what this film was called, because I just had this is pre-internet, right? Like, so, and how are you supposed to find out? Like, you have to wait till that show came on again, and I don't remember seeing it twice. This may have may not even been MTV. It may have been like a USA Up All Night thing, because you know how they did like those segmented films, and they would go like have a. You know what? It may have been that, now that I think about it, because I think about how the way Night Flight's format is.
Yeah.
That might have been on Night Flight or something like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Now it's all coming back to me.
Yeah.
Now I just got to go, because I have Night Flight. I should go through it and see if I can find it. Because they do these, like, they call them like shorts or like segments about like one about sexuality, and one about like flying, and like they do all these different like segments on Night Flight. So I think
like
this
themes, thematic.
So this may have been like a dream one, And ooh, that makes perfect sense because our girl is having a fever dream.
Yeah.
And she's the reason why I even have this lipstick on is because like in the fever dream, she's like got this like
We're
really
both,
shiny. We're dressed up today.
I'm in my Vampire suit.
Right,
It's the closest thing I had.
right.
I don't have any werewolf attire, but I
didn't have anything red.
Yeah.
This is as close as it gets.
I look like maybe some possible French aristocrats. We'll get to that one in a bit.
Yeah. But yeah, our girl is wearing like her sister's makeup because she's 14.
Right. Absolutely. And you better not have gotten into my new red lipstick.
Yep.
This film was really great. And this is, again, this is another one of those films where I remember seeing the VHS case for this on the shelf and being afraid of it. Because the cover is this, fantastic artwork, but at the time and not understanding film and being afraid of horror films, this wolf mouth protruding out of another person. They're shedding this human skin, like literally on the cover. And it's like, woo, that was a lot. Like I was scared of this thing. But at the same time, it's like, wait a minute. Angela Lansbury is in this film. So here's this horror movie of, some kind of coming of age sexual stuff that's going to have horror and violence, fairy tale stuff in it. And Angela Lansbury, this is a time Murder, She Wrote is a thing.
Right.
And so I'm thinking, wait a minute. This was the naive person that I was who wasn't able to connect art and storytelling and where, violence or sexuality, those kind of things can play their role and how people are interpreting different types of stories or exploring archetypes and all that stuff. So to me, it was just this, mind-blowing moment to have Murder, She Wrote in a film like this. So it was very significant when I did finally watch this film for the first time and realized that kind of thing could be okay. I was having my own little awakening.
Yeah, you were. Well, I'm embarrassed to say this. I don't think I've ever publicly admitted this, but I love werewolves. I love werewolf films. I love the story, the idea, the where it comes from in mythology, the outsider, the person who is fully given themselves into their wild nature. I think that there's something very sexy about it. I think that there's the beast within and like the acceptance of our inner monsters. That has always been a very to me a very sexy concept of monsters in general. So I think that I've literally never admitted this publicly. Here we go, world. It's on the internet now. But is that I love werewolf films. Howling. I love I can't say I love the Wolfman. I think those didn't hit for me, but American Werewolf in London, stupidly enough, American Werewolf in Paris. That movie was kind of dumb, but it has these elements. And again, they're even going back as far as Thriller, those werewolf transformations were just stunning. And I just think that they're just kind of a raw energy to them, a very again a sense of self, of the beast within ourselves and having no control of that or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh no.
So do you?
That's probably something for Freud to figure out.
We can analyze it here.
Oh yeah, no, let's not.
So you brought up American Werewolf in London. I haven't seen American Werewolf in Paris.
It's silly, but
yeah, and that was kind of at a time too when people were really trying to push CG. So I think most of the wolf stuff in there is trying to be CG, but I don't remember the year, but I'm going to guess it was probably 98 or something like that. It was in those years where they were really trying to, it's like a post Jurassic Park where it's we can start making digital creatures that do things. And I just remember it looks and it'll probably be very dated now, but what I was going to ask was, with like American Werewolf in London, we have these phenomenal transformations. And then the creature that we transform into that we kind of see in like quick flashes, but it's very much a wolf, dog-like, something that we would understand. In this film, the transformations of our werewolf from a person into these wolves, it's a full-blown wolf. You know, it's a wolf as opposed to something
like a Krynos form or whatever.
Well,
Like,
it's very much a quadrupedal wolf.
Yeah.
Like, we can recognize this as a wolf as opposed to something like, if we look at the underworld stuff, the lichens in there, the werewolves are they're like 7 feet tall.
Yeah,
and
those
they're
are
on
like
bipedal
a
and you know,
those
they're very anthropomorphized.
I think that more for the attraction for me for werewolves is like the turning into a wolf, like, and having that wolfish behavior or whatever. Like my first tattoo on my chest is like a woman turning into a wolf. It looks like Kiss, but back in the day it didn't. Oh,
it happens with the
hey
tattoos.
man, it is what it is.
It is,
We age out.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I mean, like, I think that there's the primitiveness of it, the out stranger, and the having a secret, the being something different from everyone else, like, those things appealed to me.
The hair is on the inside.
The hair is on the inside, baby. I don't know.
That was that I really loved how that was actually something that happens in this film. That's a comment they make in there. There's our Angela Lansbury, our grandmother, who within the first fairy tale level that we go to is telling our Raylene, kind of our Little Red Riding Hood type of character, and tells her these stories, and those are the warnings of watching out for the men whose eyebrows have grown together,
and their feet were born feet first.
Born feet first because they wear their hair on the inside.
Right. And I mean, I think that's like, there's a that's part of the sensuality of this also, is that because like a man is so like bestial and things like that, to beware little girls and whatnot. But I think that there's also that can ring into women as well, as having that, you know, bestial nature. I mean, as we say in like one of the acts later, like there's the final act that has or the final story that has the she wolf in it.
Yes.
But what I wanted to kind of rein back was that these fairy tales were like at their essence, fairy tales were not only just morality warnings, but they were also very dark. And I think that that's what we're kind of like drawn into with this story, is that this version of the Little Red Riding Hood is a fear of staying off the path, of getting off of the path,
straying off the path,
and running into men that are wild men in the woods, and being cautious and having your head on a swivel, girl. Like, those are those cautionary tales, because as we see what happens is that, you know, grandmother gets eaten and destroyed, and not in the original tale, she's not saved. Little Red Riding Hood isn't saved. So you know, it's interesting though. It's interesting as you say that, because I do think of the last fable within our fairy tale, which we can kind of get to, but relating with what you're saying. So it's almost like there's kind of two different levels of predator and prey, because the humans, the men in this, are the ones that are the sexual ones and the preying toward the women and all of that. And the wolves are the predators for the livestock, and they want to eat the sheep and the cattle and the duck that they use as bait for one of them in there. That poor dog.
But they really try to put the devil and the sin and anything that they really should be attributing to the people as far as being someone of temptation or violence or anything like that. They take it off of the person aspect of it and they put it onto the wolf, because in one of the fables in there, when they say they end up chasing after a wolf, and this is within the first layer of fantasy, they chase down one of the wolves and trap it and they kill it, but then they pull out a hand and they're just mortified, where it's like, it was a wolf when it went into the trap and then we killed it, and then it was a man right before our very eyes, and they were mortified by all of this stuff, because they'd possibly killed a person from a neighboring village, or just a human, but it wasn't.
He killed her sister, so.
Right, yeah, in the first level of in one of the first stories.
I love in her fever dream she kills off her asshole sister.
Right, exactly. But it was interesting that the real predator for the women in this world were actually the men, but they tried to make them being that the wolf was really the predator, and really the wolves just wanted to eat and get by and were not really the humans were much worse. Yeah. The humans were always kind of the bad ones in there, which we can get into more when we talk about Raylene's transition and all of that, because I think that's pretty substantial now that I'm thinking about it a little bit more. This is this is such a good film. This was, Neil Jordan, who many people will know famously did The Crying Game,
and Interview with the Vampire.
And Interview with the Vampire. But then there's also, Neil Jordan has a lot of very named, recognizable films. And I was going through the list, and I hate to say that I'm spacing off on the name on it right now, but there is a Sean Penn and Robert De Niro film where they are a couple of priests, but I think they're like guys that are on the run. It was like they did that film. It was like, holy cow, that was a Neil Jordan film.
He's kind of all over the place.
He is kind of all over the place, but he's a very accomplished filmmaker who made a lot of films that were very excellent films. But a lot of times people will remember the controversial one that he made that really has this controversial moment that is a few brief seconds, and it's a hell of a twist within The Crying Game. But The Crying Game is actually a much more complex and interesting film that also has this one crazy great hook in it.
But it doesn't. Does that film even hold up these days? I mean, honestly,
I don't know if it would hold up. But there's the whole political aspect of what happens with that film, where our Stephen Ray character is early on with Forrest Whitaker,
who's in this film, by the way.
Stephen Ray is in this film, which is great. And so we see these early filmmaker actor collaborations that are coming together. I just find it interesting that the one film that has a slight controversial moment in it, that it does have like a bigger story and has other things in it that's really intriguing, is the one where because I know as soon as we were going through this and I went, oh, Neil Jordan, and immediately it was like, oh, Crying Game. And I didn't think
for me,
of
it's
any
like
of the
Interview
other
the Vampire.
And,
because Stephen Ray is also Interview the Vampire.
He's
the French vampire.
Absolutely. And it took you saying, oh yeah, Interview with the Vampire. And I was like, that was a Neil Jordan film?
Yeah, wild, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And wasn't the special effects guy for this, wasn't he like, didn't he go on to do Tim Burton stuff?
Tim Burton's, yes.
Yeah,
you had pointed that out.
Yeah, that's right. Because he was like, everybody in this is like, again,
right.
Somehow we are good at picking films that are like these like director debuts, or like there are a lot of like synergy of other things.
Right.
Yeah.
They're kind of early on in their career, and they're finding these actors kind of early on in their careers too, that are really that become rather mainstay. And Stephen Ray is great because he's in a lot of films, and he's someone that still kind of pops up from time to time and has had a successful career in both Europe and the United States.
Yes.
Which is really great. Not a lot of people from other countries get to have that American crossover appeal. And not that he is a name outside of people who are cinephiles, but he is recognizable. He's clearly a person who, is getting the jobs.
Yeah.
I'm excited to talk about all of the practical work in this film.
Well,
if you want to talk about characters and story, we can do that
either
too.
Or.
There's so much beautiful stuff to talk about.
There's so many times I remember when we were watching this, I would turn to you and be like, how do you think that was done? And like,
Yeah.
like there was like silly things like this rose that turns red, that goes from white to red,
and opens up a little bit as
and
it
it's
does
like
it too.
crystally and beautiful, which again has a very legend feel, because don't you feel like the world of legend had everything looked like it was covered in like sparkles?
Yes.
There was that element in this too.
Yeah.
And funny things about, like, I remember we were talking about this beyond like how the set looked a lot like, you were saying it looked a lot like.
It reminded me of Legend. Yeah.
But character wise, I think there's some interesting things that we see at the very beginning that kind of give us this like, not foreshadowing, but just kind of letting us know what to expect in this. She has a storybook laying by her head. The mirror is reflecting her like tussling in her sleep. And then we see the dolls, and one of them looks like Granny, who is
Dang it, Gretchen. That's right. One of the dolls looks like Granny. And now I have an answer to one of the questions that I had about this whole thing.
Angela Lansbury. Sorry. That's the name I was trying to forget.
But that now solves one of the questions, one of the issues and we'll get to it, where we talk about the last fairy tale within the story of all of this that I didn't understand. I was going to ask you, and I think you just answered it. Holy cow. Wow. We're going to get to it. It's great.
Well, and then one of the other dolls was that weird sailor doll that chased her sister
around in the woods. Yeah.
Chased her sister around in the woods.
Yes.
And also the teddy bear that also chased her sister around in the wood. But that's okay. So this is like total non sequitur as far as like that sailor doll reminds me of that famous possessed doll, and he looks like a little sailor doll.
Really?
And
okay.
It's so fucking creepy. Like, and he's like, people like, they have to keep him happy, like, or else the doll will like exact some kind of revenge, or like some kind of like negative thing happens to the people.
I'm gonna have to get into my haunted doll lore more.
It's really weird, but it like as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh boy, that's that sailor creepy doll that like murders you in her sleep or something, or curses your family.
Like a Raggedy Ann and Andy kind of thing. It's like a haunted Andy doll.
It's like not, because like that's Annabelle, like from like the original Annabelle is actually like a Raggedy Ann doll.
Oh really? Okay,
yeah.
I've never seen any
I
of
saw
the Annabelle
them. They
films.
lectured at my college, and Lorraine Warren. They came to my college and did a lecture, and they had brought the Annabelle doll, or I can't remember her name is actually Annabelle, but she's like a possessed Raggedy Ann doll.
Nice.
And it had like glass around it that don't tap the glass, and I was all.
I'm tempted, fate.
Right? Again.
Yeah.
Like one of those, not sure I believed and I wanted to believe. So I was hoping the doll was like gonna fucking like jump at the glass or something.
Yeah.
That was a hope. Anyways, I digress.
Yeah. Well, do you want to talk about the stories within the story?
Yeah, the first story is the story that is, well, it's the story of like her sister getting killed and whatnot, and then we have like the where you pretty much covered it with like the beast. They find his hand, throw the hand on the fire. The second story is the story that Granny is one of the stories that Granny tells her about warning her about relationships and men in general. We have a woman who is meets a traveling man, and they fall in love and get married, and on their wedding night he says he needs to step out to go to the bathroom and be in the moonlight. And we kind of cut away from her, like looking at him, and it's Stephen Ray. Yeah. And he has like crazy, like colored eyes, and his eyebrows are matching. And she was talking about how cute he is with his eyebrows matching, which I was like, yeah, girl, I feel you. I like a little swarthy. I don't know. Anyways, he was like, so he goes out into the woods, or out into the
like
moonlight,
steps out of, he steps out,
and then he never
moonlight.
comes back.
Yeah.
So then we're caught with this later on life where she kind of ends up kind of settling on somebody and has kids, and she's very unhappy and whatnot. And he comes back her first husband.
Her first husband comes back.
And he's like, he looks rough too, by the way. He
yeah.
looks like he has been in the woods. Like he's got long hair and it's dirty, and she's like washing him, and they're talking, and he notices all the children, and he starts calling her names, and then gets really violent with her and slaps her. And her husband busts in as he is turning into a wolf.
Yeah, we get our first real
like cool transformation. Like it's like the skin rips off, and he like the underskin comes out, and the face elongates.
It's very
he
body
like
horror.
Self flays. Yeah. Which I've seen this done one other time. It was a really cool series called, I want to say it's called Hawthorne. That may be right. It has a Skarsgård, I think, in it. I can't remember exactly, but it was a series that came out. I want to say it's like early mid-aughts. And the werewolves in this series eat their skin.
Oh.
And absorb it.
Okay.
So that when they retransform back into people, they have their skin with them.
Okay. Wow.
But I'd never seen that before prior to like this, but he doesn't eat his skin, but his skin like fillets off, and that's what happens in these. They like their skin like splits apart, and like there's like wolf underneath, but then they like take a moment to like eat their like caul, so to speak.
Yeah.
Second podcast in a row that I've used the word caul, but how often do you use that term? But yeah, like the like they eat their skin and like reabsorb it. Again, like one of those, like I think there's like something kind of like fascinating and kind of gross and sexy about it. I don't know why. It's like one of those. I like werewolves. Your mileage may vary. I don't know. Some people like the wolf man. I like a werewolf. Like a werewolf. Anyways.
Yeah, but this is our big first transformation. And that's really kind of pushing those practical effects.
And it doesn't look hokey.
It doesn't.
I mean, it does look like there is.
You could argue that it looks dated.
It looks dated, sure. To me, it reeks of a puppet because it fucking is.
Yeah.
But like, it reeks of it has that Jim Henson Creature Workshop look.
Absolutely.
Right, because I think like the rounded eyes. There's these tells that are very Jim Henson Workshop. That this has a vibe. I would not be surprised if one of the people that worked on this were part of the crew for Labyrinth later, or because like wasn't parts of Labyrinth shot in the UK anyways. Like
it probably was.
I feel like there was probably some like. There's probably some crossover. I would imagine in like the special effects field. Yeah. This may not be a Jim Henson project. However, maybe some of his studio people worked on it because it does have those elements that have a certain quality to them. I can't find any more meta on too much on the crew of this. I mean, there are some special effects people obviously behind it, but that were what they later went on to work on, I didn't see.
Yeah, and you had pointed out too when we were watching this was made in Shepperton Studios.
Yeah,
and a year later is Pinewood Studios, where they're making Legend. Yeah. So. And
this also was absorbed. This is owned by Pinewood Studios.
By Pinewood Studios, exactly. So and I was kind of talking about too, because I'd looked up the budget on this, and they had said that it was estimated to have been around $2 million,
which is cheap.
Right.
Cheap.
I can't even believe it.
For how good this film looks, it's cheap.
It's so ridiculous. I mean, I would have thought that would have been Angela Lansbury would have eaten half of that budget.
Right.
And all the sets. I had kind of presumed that they had been built for various other projects, and then they had pulled all of these in.
I don't see anything on it. I looked pretty in-depthly to see if there was anything that had hinted to these sets that might have been reused later. Right. But I think these were built, and there were some elements that they talked about how the building of these sets, like because they built they only had 2, maybe 3 trees, and then they had to shift everything around
to reshoot them.
To reshoot sides of them so that we get a different perspective, which I think is brilliant, and again very guerrilla DIY filmmaking, when we only have a $2 million budget. Hey.
Right. Well, and there's
Angela Lansbury probably took $1 million of it.
Right. And, so with this too, there's only one true location exterior shot. And it's the very beginning when the family arrives in the car at the country home.
That's the money shot, baby.
That's it. And everything else is shot on stages.
Yeah.
Everything.
But that, I think, lends itself to the dreaminess of this story.
Yes.
And I'm sorry that I got derailed, but it's like about talking about special effects with the werewolves, but like that story, like the head gets cut off by her husband busts in.
Yes.
Right?
When he returns and he starts to wolf out.
Cuts the head off. The head dunks, beautifully falls into the milk, which is kind of I don't know. It's again a very like visceral thing, right? So it's like the idea that like there are these like all wives' tales and superstitions about like bad omens and like milk curdling because of like of a bad omen, or if like a black cat crosses your path, your milk curdles or whatnot. So the fact that this head falls off and goes into the milk, I was just like, oh, this is spectacular.
Yeah.
And it turns into a human head. It turns into Stephen Ray's head.
Right. Yeah.
Oh,
it
boy.
goes back.
And we're like, and she's picking it up and like kind of lovingly looking at it, and her husband slaps the fuck out of her, which is
pretty gross. Yeah.
Yeah.
Victim getting punished.
Yeah.
For that situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, that kind of goes back to Granny's story. She says, this is what men are. And it's like, ooh, okay. She is trying to keep Rosalie on the right path.
Yeah. Yeah, she is. Well, and it is peppered with many warnings on that. Even for the clergyman that we have in there, she kind of warns Rosaline about the clergyman a few times, but talks about him in front of him because, he's deaf. He can't hear anything. Turns out he totally hears everything. He's just decided to ignore her when he chooses to.
Her old woman prattling, as he says.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because like women lose value when they get to be old. Who figured?
Yeah. So that's that.
And this upsets me, by the way.
Oh.
Angela Lansbury is 50 years old in this. I'm like a little over a year away from that. Oh, boy.
We've kind of talked a little bit about that, too, because I had brought up the fact that like Wilford Brimley is in his 40s when he does Cocoon and he does The Thing. And, we're just like, wait, those people are in their 40s. I didn't look like that when I was in my 40s, but that was kind of...
We're looking all right, man.
Yeah, I know.
We're hanging in there.
Oh, every now and then.
I think that's Gen X, man. We're preserved by preservatives.
I hope that's the case, man. Yeah.
We're going to when as Gen X people pass away, it's all like they just remain.
Oh, my passing is probably gonna be like the Last Crusade, and I chose the wrong cup, and all of a sudden it's gonna be it'll just blow away, and it's like I'm doing real well up until that moment.
Oh boy. Yeah, it's like wait till it all catches up with me. It's like, oh boy, that's gonna be a nightmare.
Yeah.
Anyways. But man, Angela Lansbury is 50 years old in this film. She's Granny. I mean, I guess it could be a grandma, like technically at 48. Ugh.
Well, I guess if you're having kids at 16 and 17 years old, then I guess you're a grandmother at 40.
My kid's 23, so I mean, technically they could have a kid that could have a grandma, but not to like a 12-year-old or a 14-year-old. Like,
well, I have to remember that if I'm, at the age I am now, if I had a kid at 25, then that kid could have had a kid at their 25. That means that I would be 4 years into being a grandparent now. And woo, I can't imagine that.
Nope.
I'm still figuring out how to pay off my college loan.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I feel you.
Mm-hmm.
So that hurts my feelings. But no, then the next story is the my favorite story.
Yeah.
That is the tale that her mother tells her. Mm-hmm. And her mother, Rosalie, has like these like questions about sexuality, and like she witnesses her parents like having sex, and she's just ugh. And she asks some pretty cringy questions like, does it hurt? And we're like, oh boy. Yeah, girl. Okay. But yeah, no, some moms like, no, it doesn't hurt. But like, here's the thing to be wary of like, of pretty men and keeping their promises and things like that. And so she goes to tell the tale of this enchantress who comes into, we are at a tent party for some noble people, and they're having the most extravagant wedding, and you can tell it's very like libertine kind of looking, where
very
like
aristocratic,
very like Marquis de Sade kind of vibes we've got going on.
We have our early Denethor scene with the one woman who's just like consuming food and
which
like
is
blah,
so
blah, 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 blah.
gnarly.
Yeah,
like it's very excess. It's kind of poignantly talking about like showing excess and like wealth
Gluttony.
and gluttony and the overabundance. And then we have this kind of like very pregnant like woman who's like kind of dirty coming in, and she's like staring them all down. And she comes upon the man that is clearly the father of her child, of her soon-to-be born child, and she calls him to the floor about it. And
that's the guy that just got married.
Yeah.
So he's the groom in this scenario who has also
a very nice, beautiful young bride.
Yes.
And she's a little older and a little more wild and red hair.
Our peasantry person is a little older. Yes.
Yeah. And she's pretty wild. She's got some red hair.
Yes.
And she tells them they're all beasts, and kind of, because he kind of refers to her as like a lowly like beast, and she we established she's kind of like an enchantress of sorts.
Yeah.
And so she like calls them out to the beasts that they are, and then they all start transforming. But these transformation scenes are so freaking cool.
Yeah,
way different than the one prior that was like the very bloody, visceral like one. These are like they are almost comical in a way, like.
It's like the external is transforming. It's a little closer to American Werewolf and
right.
London.
So it's an external transformation as opposed to like an internal thing where like the claws bust out of the shoes, the face starts to elongate, hair is growing out. My favorite is like where a woman is like pulling her bodice and like hair is pushing out. I'm like, and you see like her nipples and then like a second set of nipples, and I was like, yes, like that is also very cool.
Yeah.
Like I thought that was so smart, and many choices in this film that there were like the transformations alone were each very intuitive of the story that they're a part of. Like there's blood and gore for the woman who has like lost her husband has disappeared and come back, and she's like unhappy, and this is very like indicative of the fact that this woman is poor and he is wealthy, and that they are monstrous in themselves. And I think that's really I think that's very cool and poignant for this story.
I love how the transformation is instigated because she's addressing all of them.
Yeah.
And trying to make them face who they are, which they don't want to, and they're not wanting to admit it, and they're really looking down upon her.
Right.
But inside of this wedding tent, there's a series of mirrors, and she goes over to a mirror, and she's looking in the mirror, and she's looking at herself, and she's looking at them right before she gives, and it's like she casts a spell or something.
Yeah,
she's speaking to the mirror, and the people that we see reflected in the mirror don't look at the mirror. They're looking at her. So she's willing to look at herself in the mirror and be a judge, and they can't. And it isn't until that groom, he looks at the mirror and she makes her move, the mirror breaks. And that's what instigates. So when at least one of them is willing to look at the monster that they are, that's when they start to reveal themselves, which to me, I have to tell you, it seems like becoming a wolf is a reward, because I find wolves to be in higher esteem than humans. So
I mean, like I said, I love a werewolf.
But I guess the way I would then change that or turn it is that it's not a reward, because now they will be hunted by the very same people that they would have considered the other aristocratic people at their level.
Right.
So that, I guess, is where they get to, a wolf is a wonderful, majestic thing, but now they're a hunted beast.
Them to work for her.
Yes.
She makes them sing her baby to sleep.
That's right, which is wonderful. And the people who are the servants in there,
they're like popping champagne and having a
absolutely.
drink. That was hysterical.
That was great.
Like,
it's celebratory, and they're
like,
very thankful to her.
Fuckers.
Yep. And it's time to now we get to enjoy the party. And hopefully, which we don't know, but hopefully what it means is that they have seen the downfall of this aristocratic group of folks, and while they're going to celebrate on the ashes of this whole wedding and everything that's left over, hopefully they won't become the very thing that they loathed and served. But we don't get to see that part.
Right. And then there's another story. It's a small one. Mm-hmm. This is a path story, like don't get off the path. Because there's like 4 stories or 5 stories. Well, the path story being there's a young man in the woods who is trying to win the favor of a woman. And so he meets the devil in the crossroads, which is famously, that is, who is that was played the devil that drove up in the Rolls Royce?
Oh, that was fantastic. And, we can edit around this and get to that guy's name because we're in this very much, the first level of this whole dream is very much meant to be kind of like
the bastard son of a priest. Sorry.
It's kind of the Middle Ages. And then we're having these other stories. These fables are within this. So we have the fables that are within the story, and they all are very much in that medieval time period. And yet we get, is he not the devil? But he rolls up in a car.
It's Terence Stamp.
Absolutely. Yes. Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
Yes.
As well as being one of the first, the Chancellor of the Republic that we get to meet in Star Wars. He was Zod in Superman.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this dude's been in all sorts of stuff and wonderful. And here
he's so young in this. He's so young in this. And it's not even that far into his career. I mean, he has a pretty prolific career in the 70s too. But like, it was such a surprise to see him. But yeah, it's like the bastard son of a priest, because this was the part of the story of the priest knowing like that priests sometimes have kids. Mm-hmm. Yes. And this kid was trying to win some favor, and so he ends up taking an ointment from the devil, who is driving a Rolls Royce in the middle of a medieval Renaissance forest. There we go. Yeah. And I just love that for me was very ethereal. I mean, we have Rosalind driving the car, and she's like wearing a white wig and she's in white, like, and I think that's kind of cool, like a very like angel, like a devil in disguise angel type role or whatever the case may be. But like, I'm not even sure the semblance of there is, but there is I just think that's such a, like, it's kind of like the whole, it's so stark of a contrast that there's this, vintage to us Rolls Royce in the middle of a medieval wood. Right.
Yeah. And so I'm forgetting, what happened after that guy rubbed the ointment on himself?
He puts the ointment on himself. It starts to grow hair. Yeah. And then the vines reach up and start wrapping around him and dragging him down. And then the story reflects back suddenly to Rosalie in her bedroom, or Rosaline in her bedroom. And she's like sweating and like tossing, again, fever dream. And then in the mirror reflection is the boy screaming.
That's right.
And then we cut back to the dream again.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. And then we go into the tale of the woman who gets the wrong right. The woman, the enchantress and the nobleman.
Oh, the one with the aristocrats during the wedding tent.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. And then our next story is the she-wolf. It's supposed to be like a compassion tale about having compassion for people.
She's not tied back into others.
No, she's actually like comes up from underground from the well. And then she is like,
a wolf from the underworld.
Right.
That's
and she gets shot and injured, and the priest takes care of her and tries to convince people to like of her innocence, because everybody thinks that she's like the one that's killed the animal or killed the livestock. And so he ends up returning her to the well. And that was like, I mean, that story was like, meh. I mean, it was like the sweetest story of all of them, but then it was kind of like the meh. And then this is when we go back on track to our story of grandma has knitted her a scarf or knitted her the hood and is like, I need you to come meet me at my house. And here we go, Little Red Riding Hood.
This is where we have our Little Red Riding Hood
and then
moment.
So she's on her way to go to Granny's house and has met a very handsome man whose eyebrows meet in the middle.
Yes,
on
our
the way.
traveler on the way.
And he has a compass, and he tells her all about how compass, and she's blown away by his magnanimous personality and having knowledge of compasses, and falls for him. And he he tells her he's gonna give her a treat, and they have like an embrace for
that
like
strange
a little
moment with
like
the
a
cookie. He holds the cookie in his mouth, and then that's how he feeds it to her. He kind of leans in, and she like leans in and takes a bite of it, but then she snags it with her hand. Yeah, it's very bizarre.
It's very,
because our Rosaline is a young woman.
She's 14.
Yes,
Rosaline's 14.
She is a young person
lady
in here, and this is definitely an adult gentleman.
Yes, but this was, I guess, supposed to be a different time.
True.
It's a fantasy. It's a story. It's a fantasy horror. Again, one of those I feel like does not get enough attention are fantasy horror films. But again, I forget. I get myself off track. So we meet the handsome wolf, and she's like, I'm going to grandma's house, and he says, I will beat you there because I have a compass. And she's like, but I know my way. And so we're having a race to get to who's going to get to grandma's house.
And tells her that that's a fault of hers, because you're going to take the path, because everyone said you have to stay on the path.
Stay on the path.
He's not going to take the path
because
he has the compass, and he's tempting her to go off the path. And
he gets to grandma's house first.
Yeah.
And this is our very famous, like, instead of grandma getting eaten, however, there is a confrontation between the wolf and grandma, and he knocks her head off and it breaks like ceramic.
It's a porcelain doll.
She's a porcelain doll
head. And so that's where I'm like, oh my goodness. Now I understand, because I was always like, I don't understand why grandma was like, it's because we're in a level of fantasy. This is our first level. And the grandmother looking doll that is within there, this is supposed to be the symbology tying back into that doll that's on the shelf. And so it's grandma's head is the porcelain head that shatters.
So she shatters.
Yeah.
And then he poses as grandma, and in a way, and she, busts into the house to see, or asks her.
Well, she doesn't. She does what? So he knocks, and grandma says, "Lift the latch and come in, my dear." And he does. And then they have their confrontation. So he's sitting in grandma's rocker.
Yeah.
When Rosaline shows up, and she knocks,
and he does her voice.
Yeah.
Ish.
Lift the latch and come in, and she does.
And we don't have the original story here. This is where things diverge. She is tempted and falls for him and succumbs to him and becomes a part of his world and becomes a wolf herself.
Yeah. The human man seduces her, but for them to become the wolves, to go out into the wild. Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing. That moment is amazing. It's very awkward getting to it when we are acknowledging that she's 14 and he's probably like 25 in this.
Well, and I think beyond that, it's also like, because this film is, if not many things, it is continually a bunch of like allegories for sex and violence and marriage and relationships and coming of age
puberty,
and becoming a woman and like feminine divinity and like having like there's things that are uniquely womanly in this, but also there are so many things that are very manly and very male perspective and oriented, and quite honestly it doesn't pass the Bechdel test.
It does not. Well, and Granny is the only one that is advocating for any type of autonomy for her, because everything else is kind of leading toward
her parents want her just to be like
right, you're gonna get married off,
right?
There's even a prospect in there, but there's a boy that we have for a little while that sort of kind of courts her a little bit. That
gross ass snaggletooth needing summer tooth kid, like tooth goes some this
right
way, some
yeah
go that way.
Absolutely yeah. So our little Huckleberry Finn boy, but he is considered a viable prospect within the community, the village that they're in, and she knew she was special,
and so I think this was like,
well, that's the thing, is there's kind of no passion and there's nothing, and so that's the other part, is that while Granny wants to have her have this autonomy and be worried about these men or boys that might be seductive, the werewolves of this, Granny, I don't think, wants her to also fall into the very systemic, you just get one of the boys from the village and get married and have babies and do all of that.
Continue the fold, as they say.
Right.
The very famous quote that the mom, I think, was it the mom who says it or the grandma who says it? If there is a beast in men, it meets its match in women too.
Yeah, Granny says that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it Granny that says that? Maybe it's the
mom. I thought it was her mom.
I think you're right. It was the mom. Yeah.
Yeah. Because she was asking her about like sex and whatnot and like if it hurts, and then she was saying like,
that is
do the male dogs beat their bitches? And she was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. This film is beautiful. Like I said, it has some heavy-handed metaphors, but other than that, we should talk about like how freaking amazingly shot and the special effects are in this.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
And some of the things that you and I love as far as film nerds, like our favorite things, miniatures, matte paintings, woo!
Yeah.
Galore.
It's because like we had said earlier on, there is only one scene that takes place that's outside that is actually at a location. Everything else is on these stages. So you have these amazing matte paintings that are lit, and then these huge pieces in the studio.
But they're not trying
to.
I feel like they're not trying to hide the fact that they are, like, you know how sometimes matte paintings are done, like for instance, like Danger Diabolic.
Yeah.
Like the matte paintings are done to look real.
Right.
Whereas this, I feel like they are not.
You're in a story.
Yeah. And so you're looking. Everything has a dreamy, like fantastical element to it. There are so much where like
but it doesn't look
trees
bad when you
having vaginas and like dicks. I was like, what?
Yeah.
It took me several watches to figure that out. I remember reading that in an article and then being like, what? No. And then when I rewatched it, I was like, oh,
it's kind of all over.
Ma'am.
Yeah.
Sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right, but it's not cheesy. That's the thing, is it's not bad. It's very well done.
But it's not taken super seriously either.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, in the sense of like that it's not comical, but it's not
I guess it's meant to feel artificial in a way that
ethereal?
You feel like, yes, you feel like this is, you are in this person's dream. Yeah. There's nothing where they're trying to say, oh no, we're on location and this is really a forest. Well, and there's just so many like
animal symbology. We have like very Bell Book and Candle, very like we have toads and out of place like snakes and things like that. Like there are creatures and hedgehogs and little like elements, and there's dirt and filth, and like there are so many things that are, again, like these beautiful like storytelling like fairy tale story.
Yeah.
Like
very fairy tale
creatures and
yes.
divinity and things like that are in this. I just think there's such a beautiful fucking film.
It is. And the thing that I really love about this one, and I love Legend, that's one of those things that I could do a whole dissertation on the fact
we could
that
always do Legend another time.
Right. And Legend's a great film, but it's an extremely flawed film in a lot of ways, but there's still a lot of joy that I have with that film. And the one thing, if I were to compare and contrast at this moment, talking about the filming and the practical aspects of it, is that everything, even in the darkness of Legend, there is a lot of color and things can disappear into the shadows, but there's a lot of distinct. There's
this does not have a lot of color.
It doesn't. It's
has
muted
pops.
And it's dirty. It does
Red.
have pops. It does. And that's the thing, is that it has these moments of pops at very specific things, but it looks like, even though you're in a fairy tale, it still feels like a dirty, lived in world. It feels like it has grit and texture to it. It doesn't feel like a hyper sensationalized fantasy.
Right. But the pops of color, I think, are the intentional, like, dripping sensuality that are supposed to be prevalent throughout the film. Like her hood being like the red hood.
Yeah.
The rose going from white to red. The blood in the milk. The red is overwhelmingly in this in different ways.
And Neil Jordan is not trying to be like, haha, I snuck one in under it.
No,
you didn't realize
he's
that
like,
this was Red Riding Hood. It's like,
shh.
this is Red Riding Hood, and this is Red Riding Hood if she were to hit puberty and be romanticized by by a stranger in the woods.
Yeah.
Like, it's right there, folks. Here we go.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. It's really wonderful. It's such great filmmaking and storytelling. You could never make a film like this today.
No,
You'd
absolutely
never
not.
be able to get away with any of this at all, for good or for bad. People can decide for good or for bad. Very much, you couldn't make Leon the Professional today and have that Natalie Portman character with those subtexts of
look what they did to
in there.
The Interview with the Vampire. They aged up Claudia.
Yeah, that was shoot, I'm totally spacing off on her name, but I mean, basically, you've got a 9-year-old girl in there. Yeah, Kirsten Dunst is, what, she's
like 8, 9.
Yeah, 8 or 9 years old when she does that. But what is?
So was Claudia.
Well,
actually younger, but yeah.
Right, but she becomes arrested at her age, and so she's like functioning at what? She's supposed to be like 80 years old at some point in time, and is even angry about the fact that she's stuck in this prepubescent body while everybody else gets to be an adult and do what they want to out in this world. It's definitely playing with taboo.
Definitely.
And I get why that can be a complication and an issue today with storytelling, considering what has gone on. But yeah, you could never make that kind of that story today.
No, not as
they're not hiding it.
Yeah, they're not. You can't. It would have to be more, if we were going to do something in the now of that nature, it would definitely have to be more hidden. It couldn't be as like very open as this is.
Right. And I think having been the problems there has been in real life,
which is probably
with child, Right. Well, and just the problems with child actors having gone through a lot of the traumatic incidents of having to grow up too fast and all of that. The idea of having, even with the context, if you were to say, look, this is context and this is what we're doing, we're not saying it's good or right, but here's the context of this very young person who is supposed to be like 80 years old and they're really upset about you can't have that. There's no way to get around that context because real life has just destroyed that too much. You can have it on the page, but you couldn't have it on the picture. Yeah. Such a great film, though. This was a fantastic suggestion.
Oh.
It was so great to revisit this film and revisit it as a person having now been a filmmaker and worked in this world and grown up and changed and is able to see this kind of filmmaking with different lenses. It's really fantastic.
And I mean, we get to see, like I said earlier, we get to see those elements of raw filmmaking that is what makes working with film special.
Yeah.
And magical.
Yeah. Yeah, this is great filmmaking. I mean, to have been Neil Jordan back in the early 80s and making a film like this, just, man, what a great time. Yeah. What a amazing feeling that must have been. Probably scary as hell at the time.
Yeah.
But still fantastic.
What are we watching next, Martin?
This is going to be a surprise for you, what we're going to watch next. I really am excited for you to watch this film because I don't think you have seen Promising Young Woman.
I haven't. Ooh, okay, cool. Yeah.
Promising Young Woman is a fantastic film. It is so good. And it's one of those films. So for me, when I watched it, it probably became definitely a top 10, but probably really close to a top 5 film of all time.
Okay.
And it became one of the best films that I had seen, in decades.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's something to live up to, man.
It is so
sounds
good.
Great. I'm looking forward to it. I have zero knowledge of this film.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I like a good surprise. I mean, I was surprised with Dinner in America. I'm going to be surprised with this one.
Excellent.
All right.
Cool, Gretchen. Well, I will see you next time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.